Thanks for tuning in to Channel 18 News. With Dana Hahn, Victoria SACCHETTI, KAYLA MEYEROWITZ, and Nicole Adler. Welcome to the Daily European News.
Today, we'll be talking about major features of life in the old regime. As most of you know, our country is based on aristocratic elites who possess a vast amount of legal privileges. Our churches are established in relation to the state and aristocracy. Our urban labor force is organized into guilds, and our rural peasantry is subject to high taxes and feudal dues. Our people live their lives as their ancestors had, and we expect our children to do the same.
Because of the Enlightenment, we desire change. Right now, our nobles and peasants are calling for the restoration of traditional rights. Right now, the peasants are petitioning and revolting, but we are unsure of what the outcome will be. The economy has been progressing well. Grain remains the most important crop. This is a picture of the grain fields. Many are convinced that our economic look is related to the hierarchical structure of the society. Our medieval sense of rank is becoming more and more rigid. There are sumptuous laws trying to be passed by the government to regulate the dress code of different classes.
Our next segment is going to be about the aristocracy.
In Eastern Europe, the character of the nobility has become very complicated and repressive. Military traditions of the aristocracy are very important. Most Polish nobility are relatively poor, but in Austria and Hungary, the nobles possess broad judicial powers and are exempt from taxation. In Prussia, the younger nobles are very strong. They have the right to transmit noble status to noblemen's wife and children. Aristocratic resurgence is expected to soon take place, and this will prevent the monarchies from expanding their power. Now let's go to our reporter Victoria, who is at the Palace of Versailles.
Bonjour! I am here today with Marie, who is a French noble. She lives here at the Palace of Versailles, which is where we are right now. Marie, can you please tell me how many members of the French nobility are there?
There are about 400,000 nobles split into two groups, those of the sword who earn their nobility through the military, and those of the robe who earn their nobility through the bureaucracy.
Wow, this palace is so extraordinary and extravagant. Can you please tell me, do all the nobles live here, or is it just certain ones?
Just certain nobles. Only the nobles that have an office position with the court of Versailles, and those that don't live here. The court nobility is a lot wealthier. The provincial nobility is called the hobereaux, and are often only a little bit wealthier than the peasants' dues.
Thank you, Marie. I'll see you soon. Hello, good evening. I am here today on the streets of Great Britain with Rebecca, who is a member of the Great Britain's aristocracy. Can you please tell us how many members are part of the aristocracy?
I would say that there are about 400 families.
Wow. How does each family take part in the government?
Each family is part of the House of Lords. Many of these families also control most of the seats in the House of Commons. The aristocracy members have few legal privileges, but they do have strong political power and social influence.
Wow, they must be rich. What do they do with all their wealth?
Well, most own land and invest in commerce, canals, urban real estate, and industrial ventures.
Wow, that was really interesting. I'm sure we all learned a lot. Thank you.
Here we have a picture of the current peasant rebellions in Russia.
Wow, that looks brutal, but at least most peasants and serfs are directing their wrath towards property instead of their land. In addition to many small peasant revolts, Elia Pugacher is currently leading the largest one.
Let's go to Nicole Adler, who is interviewing him.
Hello. Thanks for taking the time out of fighting to come.
It's no problem. I also want to be able to spread the word so more peasants can come and help.
Can you compare the nobility and landowners to the peasants?
The nobility and landowners are wealthy and own land. The peasants live on their lands in many places and are desperately poor and live in social dependency. Serfs are legally bound to the land of a certain lord. The wealthy landowners and nobles control land, government, and courts, so the peasants don't get fair justice or representation.
Is this only happening in Russia?
No, peasants and serfs are taken advantage of in other parts of the world, such as in England. An example is with the English legislation of hunting. This is a prime example of how the same people who benefited from the law also served as local justices of peace. Who enforced the law and punished violators were the ones that made the law.
Another epidemic that's hitting our country is the rising price of bread. We all eat bread on a daily basis, and now not everyone can afford it. The cost of bread is now exceeding the wages of the peasants, and they are starving. The grain is also increasing as much as the bread. Many new landowners are emphasizing on this to increase their profits. Many peasant revolts are resulting from the landowner trying to take advantage of them. Very recently, Dutch farmers have developed new ways to develop dikes and to drain land so they could take advantage of their new land. Charles Townsend has been taking Dutch ingenuity. He instituted crop rotation with wheat, turnips, barley, and clover. This new development is leading to year-round meat production because additional fodder will be produced and allow more livestock to be raised. Robert Bagel has been experimenting with breeding to produce animals that will produce more milk and meat.
The new village method looked to increase animals and their grazing land so that they can produce more fertilizer. Most of England's land is farmed by the open field method, but as of recently, many farmers have been creating enclosures to mark their land and to create a more effective way to use the land. This new trend is causing turmoil in the countryside, and riots are becoming common over feuds of land. The larger population is causing a higher demand for food production and increased prices, but the innovations are keeping the prices low and the production higher. After a commercial break, I'll be joined with the famous historian Nicole Adler to discuss the recent growth of cities.
Go.
Lately, my horse's hair has been so dirty and frizzy. I don't know what to do. He keeps getting sick from all the flea bites.
Try this new shampoo. If your horse's hair is frizzy, like this one, if you put in this shampoo at least once a day, your horse's hair will be silky smooth like this, and it'll protect against fleas.
Wow, how can I get it?
You can mail 20 coins to 25 Hare Lane, and we'll send it to you in 3 months or less.
Gee golly, I'll buy one.
Hello, my name is Dana Hahn, and I'm reporting to you live from 18th Century News headquarters. I am joined today with the famous historian Nicole Adler for a special segment on the growth of cities from 1600 to 1750 and the different urban classes during that time.
Well, from 1600 to 1750, the cities have grown the most are the capitals and ports, reflecting the success of monarchical state building and the consequent burgeoning of bureaucracies, armies, courts, and other groups who have lived in the capitals.
The growth of port cities also illustrates the expansion of European overseas trade, especially that of the Atlantic routes. Now, it is my understanding that cities also grew as a result of this new prosperity of European agriculture, even when there is little industrialization.
Correct. Improved agriculture production promoted the growth of nearby market towns and other urban centers that served agriculture or allowed more prosperous farmers to have access to consumer goods and recreation.
Previous reports on the cities of Europe back then emphasized both the striking grace and beauty of the wealthy and the dirt, filth, and stench that filled the streets.
Very true, Dana, but it is also important to note that poverty was not just an urban problem. It was much worse in the countryside. Many young men and women migrated to the nearest city in hopes of a better life, only to find little food, disease, degradation, and death.
Sad, but unfortunately true. Let's move into a discussion about the upper classes.
They controlled the political and economic affairs of the town, and they would normally constitute to a self-appointed and electing oligarchy that governed the city through its corporation or the city council.
And is there any more information regarding the middle class?
Yes, the middle class was another group of this city that was prosperous, but was not always wealthy. They tended to be economically aggressive and socially ambitious, as well as supporters of reform, change, and economic growth.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to be seeing you soon.
Thank you for having me.
The trailer for the new TV show Modern Family. This is the story of two very different families. Phil and Claire are from Eastern Europe.
My name is Phil.
And my name is Claire. We got married when I was 19 and Phil was 17.
We have 5 kids, and my parents and grandparents live with us.
I wanted to have more children, but unfortunately, economic pressures were more important to deal with than childbearing.
Our Lord is happy we have such a big family, so if someone dies, someone could easily take over their work in the fields.
Jay and Gloria are from Western Europe.
I'm Gloria. Jay and I got married when I was 23 and he was 28. Before Jay, I worked with my padre, who is an artisan, and left once I got married.
We have 3 kids and 1 servant, but our teenager moved out to enter the workforce.
Even though everyone in our familia works, we don't make enough money by farming alone, so Jay has to work as a fisherman.
Modern Family, series premiere Wednesday, September 23rd on ABC.
As many of you know, the society we live in has been undergoing major changes in what we have termed the Industrial Revolution. There has been massive economic, technological, social, and cultural change recently. This movement has been characterized by the developments in textiles, iron, and steam, led mostly by Britain. Recently, we sent a team out to get the public opinion on the recent changes in society due to this Industrial Revolution.
Huge change has stemmed from the invention of steam power, which is now used to power factories and transport. It has also allowed for deeper mining.
Anything else?
Actually, yes, the improvement of iron-making techniques has allowed for vastly higher production levels.
I work in the textile industry, and let me tell you, it has been transformed by new machines like the spinning jenny and factories, which has allowed for much higher production at lower costs. I think that the new city factory cultures have affected our family and peer groups. Also, new anti-technology groups have emerged, like the Luddites.
The increase in debates and law regarding child labor, public health, and working conditions.
Personally, I think it has to do with the end of feudalism, which in turn changed economic relationships. Also, there are now proportionally large amounts of spare capital for investment.
I believe it was caused by the higher population, which, as we all know, has resulted from the decline in disease and infant mortality. These 2 factors have allowed for a larger industrial workforce.
Anything else?
Well, the agricultural revolution has freed people from the soil, allowing, or rather driving them into cities and manufacturing.
Interesting. Well, I believe that it was caused by the presence of all the required resources close together and the culture of hard work, taking risks, and developing ideas. Let me tell you, not everyone has a spinning jenny, and it really amazes me. This wonderful machine increases yarn production by 60%. So whoever owns one can easily make a lot more money in the same amount of time. You can order this great machine for 50 coins. All you have to do is mail the money to 987 Country Lane, and you can look to receive it in 6 to 8 months. Once you get it, you will know it is worth all the money. Moving on to our next segment, we are discussing the situation of the Jewish ghettos. It is no secret that Jewish communities have been excluded and persecuted throughout recent years. In addition, they tend to dwell in nations without enjoying the rights and privileges that other subjects had unless monarchs specifically granted them. All regime Jews, regardless of where they dwell, live apart from non-Jewish Europeans in separate communities. We often refer to these distinct districts of cities as ghettos. If you look around your communities, you will see that their religious beliefs and institutions have set them apart, but also that virtually all laws and social institutions keep them socially apart and inferior to us, their Christian neighbors. So now I ask you, is it okay that we condone this discrimination based on religious separateness? Is it okay that they cannot pursue professions freely, cannot change residence without official permission, and are excluded from the political structures of nations they live in? How would you like it if you could be expelled from your home, had to listen to sermons that insulted your religion, and if your children could be taken away from you? What do you think it would feel like knowing that your neighbors could suddenly turn against you and kill you? So I ask our viewers to accept a policy of religious toleration and stop the discrimination against the Jewish population.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week.
This is so awkward. Our churches are... My foot is leaning.
Wait, when I move this way, it goes down.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of everything.
So when I go...
Okay, like the structure of the population in
Sure. Okay, ready? We're at the Palace of Versailles, which is where we are right now. Back to the hub. I don't know. I couldn't think of. I didn't know.
What's the hub?
So what is and culturally?
I mean, I got to tell you. Around her.
Wow, how can I get it?
Shampoo all over my hands. 1 second.
Revolting, but we are unsure of what the outcome will be.